But the reason you did it is actually, it's very personal.
Yeah.
The reason you actually went through a breast cancer experience, I don't know how to phrase it, experience.
I call it an experience. Some people call it a journey, whatever.
What are some of the ways that Pink Pack helps? Because I know I mentioned a few, like, providing transportation and childcare. Like, in what way? Like, is it literally as easy as they apply for the program?
So when people call to enroll in the program, we'll sit with them and say, okay, this is what we offer. What do you need help with?
All right, mi gente. So it is now October, and there's, as we're just talking, there's a lot going on in October. But one of the most important things going on in October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And we have with us the founder and executive director of 305 Pink Pack, Dr. Rosemary Carrera, although when I knew her back in Southwest, she was Rosemary Gonzalez, right? Yep. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This is wonderful.
So I love just, welcome back to like the hood, right? Welcome back to Huachete.
Back home.
Yeah. It's funny, we were talking. I was like, I know who you are. You graduated about a year or two before I did. So we never interacted, but it just goes to show how small of a community Miami is, right?
Tiny.
It's like, I'm like, no, I know who Rosemary. I don't know you.
Right.
But I know Rosemary.
You.
Yeah.
No, that happens all the time. And it's like Miami is the smallest big city you can imagine. And people don't understand. Everybody here is connected.
Oh, yeah. And then thank you also, Jenny. Speaking of connected,
yes,
thank
exactly.
you, Jenny, for connecting us. I had actually wanted to have you on before, when I first learned about your organization. And then realistically speaking, I know that you guys obviously want exposure throughout the year, but selfishly I was like, oh, but it's past October. Like, I wanted to time it when I think people are just going to be more receptive to the message, because yes, breast cancer doesn't just wait until October to show up, right?
Exactly.
But it's when people are listening.
Exactly.
And I wanted to make sure your message was amplified.
They're paying more attention during that time, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that, I'm pulling up my notes here. So, 305 Pink Pack, which is fun to say, Pink Pack. You guys provide transportation, childcare, and additional things, necessities at zero cost to those who are going through cancer treatments, local women as of the time of this, so that they can focus on just the treatment and spending time and getting better. And I think, first of all, that's phenomenal. Thank you for doing that. But the reason you did it is actually, it's very personal. The reason you actually went through a breast cancer experience, I don't know how to phrase it, experience.
I call it an experience. Some people call it a journey, whatever. It's you, whatever you want to call it, you call it. It's all your own. But yeah, I went through breast cancer when I was 40. I had just had a baby, and this was not what was on our radar whatsoever. And it was one of those things that just life threw all these different things at us at once. And had we not had our families here in Miami, like within a 15-minute radius,
oh, wow.
I don't know what we would have done, because, they literally would take our daughter and one abuelo's house one couple of days, and then the other abuelo's house the other couple of days. My grandmother's cooking for us. My sister's taking her for play dates. It took everybody to get us through that time. And even having all that help, it was really difficult. And so it was one of those things that we were meeting other people who were going through the same thing, and they were looking for someone to help them with their kids and someone to drive them to their appointments. And we couldn't find anything. It's like, how could it be that here in Miami, we don't have programs that can offer these kinds of real help to patients who are going through cancer treatment? And then that's how we kind of came up with the idea.
Yeah. So, but how, from the time of, obviously you went through your experience. I'm going to go, because you used the word experience. What was it in that moment that kind of catalyzed you to say, you know what, I can be that person. I can be the person who can be the change I want to see. I know it sounds so cheesy and cliche, right? But it's,
It's
you
true.
really did. You did that.
Yeah. And really it started with my first cancer friend. My first cancer friend is Suzette, who was...
Suzette.
Hi, Suzette. I met her through my sister. She was a former coworker of my sister's. And so when I was first diagnosed, my sister reached out to her because she was going through ovarian cancer treatment at the time. And she said, listen, my sister just got diagnosed. would you mind reaching out to her to get some tips and help her, just guide her through the process? You're going to be treated at the same hospital. And my very first chemo appointment, she shows up with a big old bag full of things that are helpful during treatment, bald as can be. And she's like, you're going to be fine, but you need all of this. I said, okay, what is all of this? And she sat
just
there.
like walked in the door.
You just walked in. Exactly. I'm like, who are you? Because I had never met her in person.
Oh shit. Okay.
Nothing. And so she sat down with me and she just went through all these things that I'm sure somebody told me about at some point. It was on a paper somewhere, but who has the mentality to go through that? And she just sat down with me and said, this is for this, use this for this, and went through each of these things. And then she just gave me a hug and she said, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. But you need all of this. I said, okay. And so really that is what inspired us to start something. I'm like, had I not had her come in and just sit there with me, I wouldn't have known any of this stuff and I would have just been completely lost. And so the three of us got together one day at Sergio's for lunch or second breakfast.
Where else?
You know?
Yeah.
And then we said, you know, we need something like this here. People need this kind of help because your doctors are there to treat you. The hospital is there for your treatment. But all this other stuff that happens in life, you know, that doesn't stop. Your kids still have to get to school. Your house has to get cleaned. You still have to get to your appointments. How do you do all that if you don't have an abuela, in-laws, your parents, and all these people doing it for you? And so that's why we started 305 Pink Pack.
That's so amazing because, you know, we always, I think Cubans and Latins in general, we always kind of take that for granted that, like, you know, oh yeah, I live 3 blocks from my parents and abuelos over there and tios over there, because we do have that extended family that I think we never stop to think about the value that can have in these unforeseen circumstances, right? Sometimes you almost see it as almost like oh my God, there's so many people there's always so many people in this house.
Everybody's here.
Everybody's always
always
here. But it really, I think it just gives you that perspective,
Yeah.
right? That you wouldn't have been afforded otherwise.
No, completely. And had they been even just 10 minutes further, it would have really changed things. It would have been even more difficult. So having family nearby is, I mean, vital. And not just for something like a health emergency like this, but when you have a baby, when you have your family starts growing, like you need that support. And when you think about it, they want to give you that support. So let them. And that's one thing that I always tell people when they're going through their care. People are going to reach out. People are going to say, how can I help? What can I do? Give them a specific task because everybody wants to feel like they're part of your experience and they want to give you something that's going to help. You know, you can only wear so many breast cancer t-shirts and you can only have so many fuzzy socks. But you know what's really helpful? When somebody comes over and does your laundry for you, right. Or brings pizza for the kids or takes your kids on a play date. So, you know, give them those specific tasks and bring your community in because I promise you that you are going to have the chance to pay it forward for somebody because unfortunately that's just how things are.
I will say, if nothing else, my takeaway from this is that, like, if there's any Pero Primos out there who are going through this, now's the time to get your laundry done by other people. Have somebody come and clean your bathroom.
Yes, please.
Take advantage. We'll be there for you. So one time I will agree to that.
And it's perfect.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just being lazy. Like, honestly, like you're just being cut out if that's the case. But I wanted to also just talk, you know, again, we're talking here about the support system as Latinos. And, you know, obviously, because that's what we are. So that's the experience we have. But not all Latinos have that. I mean, let's be fair. Some people are here by themselves. Some people have a small family. It's just the reality of it. You know, what are some of the things that Pink Pack, and I can't stop saying it, Pink Pack, because it's like, it's the hard consonants
right.
And then the K's at the end. It's fun. You know, what are some of the ways that Pink Pack helps? Because I know I mentioned a few, like, you know, providing transportation and childcare. Like, in what way? Like, is it literally as easy as they apply for the program? You know, you accept, for lack of a better word, accept them.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, we'll send an Uber at 10 a.m. to pick you up, or Rosemary will show up at 9 in the minivan. Like, how does that?
Logistically, that's a little bit more challenging, but no, we've figured out a system that works. And so when people call to enroll in the program, we'll sit with them and say, okay, this is what we offer. What do you need help with? And usually they'll say, oh, you know, I really only need the grocery gift card. I'm like, okay, no problem. What happens is that we call 2 weeks later and say, hey, how's it going? What do you need? How can we help you? We have this.
Right.
Do you need this yet? No, I'm still good. By week 4, they're all in, because that's when things start to build up a little more, where they're starting to feel bad and they can't drive. And so they need the Uber or the Lyft vouchers. And so we'll give them a voucher that'll cover their rides to and from their treatment center, so they can get there easily and quickly. If they don't know how to use a smartphone, or if they don't have a ability to use the voucher, they'll call in their rides every day, and then we'll just manually input them. We'll do childcare services for them, which it looks different for everyone. So sometimes it's just supporting with aftercare costs or school transportation. Sometimes it's daycare. So for everybody, it's just different depending on what age the kids are. House cleanings, because when you're tired and your house is a mess, that makes you feel even worse. If you don't have a primo who can come clean your bathroom, that's a problem. So we do that. We do groceries as well. And then self-care, because you need a little bit of pampering sometimes to feel good about yourself, especially when you're tired and you're not feeling well. There's nothing like having someone, give you a massage. And we work with oncology specialized massage therapists, so they know exactly how to work with a patient who's going through treatment.
Okay, cool. Now, you have a background in medicine. You are a doctor. Mm-hmm. How has that influenced the approach that you've taken? Because obviously, I could start a charity like this. Probably wouldn't be the same, because I'd be more about I don't know exactly the ins and outs and how it affects the body, and I would have to do a lot more research. I feel like you're probably better equipped, aside from having experienced it firsthand, obviously. But I think you can also have those conversations in a different way with the people who are part of the program.
Yeah, I'm an optometrist, and my background was working with patients who are low vision impaired.
Oh.
And so I was always comfortable having uncomfortable conversations with people. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's really given me the ability to sit people down and be like, okay, just let it all out, That
must be awful. I'm sorry. It's just that's one of those biggest fears is losing my sight.
It's very common. It is one of the things that people are most afraid of, because it's something that you depend on wholeheartedly. But just like everything else, it's possible. It's just a matter of adapting to the situation and learning how to use your other senses. Right. But it's a very difficult process for people to go through, just as this is. And just being able to be empathetic, and a lot of times just listening, because when you go to the doctor now, you're in and out in 2 seconds, right? So it can be a little bit difficult to get the full effect of really understanding what you're hearing. And as a cancer patient, you don't process even half of what you're being told at that moment. Right. And then the rest of it, you're going to forget within the hour. So it's a lot of empathy, a lot of patience, a lot of listening. And I'm very fortunate to have an amazing woman working with me, Jenny, who is a different Jenny.
Okay.
Not our Jenny, a different Jenny.
Jenny?
A different Jenny. But she is one of those people who will, if you need to sit and talk to her for 45 minutes, she will sit there and listen for 45 minutes.
It's so important sometimes, just having that person.
Completely. And so we like to bring people in to work with us and volunteer with us who are those types of people, who are ready to listen and not necessarily share, but really listening is the biggest part of it.
We started this podcast 8 years ago with one goal: be our authentic selves and make sure our culture was always front and center. It's not always easy, but nobody ever said being bold was easy. And for over 100 years, no café has known that better than Café La Llave. It takes a certain level of bold to unapologetically keep your culture alive. But let me tell you, Café La Llave is doing just that. So when you're being true to who you are and hustling to achieve your dreams, of course you're enjoying Café La Llave Cafecito. After all, it's brewed bold for the bold. See, this is why I have you on the show. No, honestly, this is the type of thing that I think on some level, most people know, how do I approach this? How do I treat? But it's different between kind of just knowing it and actually knowing it. I know I sound like I'm repeating myself, but it's
No,
two
it's
very
true.
different
It
things. The lived experience of it all too.
Absolutely. And, as caregivers or as friends, honestly, we say the wrong thing a lot of times. When
Welcome
I
to
was,
my life.
yeah, when I was first diagnosed, it was like, so and so died of cancer too. And oh my gosh, this one, I'm like, really? Really? Thank you. And, when somebody tells you news like that, just be like, I'm here. I'm here to listen. What do you need? How can I help? Don't offer advice from your tia abuela who went through treatment 30 years ago, because even for someone who went through treatment 6 months ago, it's different now.
Really, that quick?
It changes so fast because of research. We're constantly finding new things, better things, so it's always changing. So even if you had the same exact type of cancer as Uracina, it's gonna be different. So
And that's I'm going to piggyback off of that, because we were talking earlier, and I think a lot of times what happens with breast cancer in general is people want to be a part of it. They want to help, and they're looking for organizations. And there are some organizations that are great organizations, but they focus on the research. Whereas organizations like yours, actually, you're the only one in South Florida that is focusing on the patient, right? The personal element of it. And I think people don't realize that. People don't realize that when you're going and donating to, charity X, they have a focus, and that focus is necessary,
Right.
but it doesn't encompass the full experience.
no, absolutely. And when you want to donate, you just do your research first. Where do you want your funds to go? Do you want it to focus on research? Do you want it to focus on financial assistance for patients? Do you want it to focus on daily needs? So they're all important and they're all necessary, but just make sure that you know where it's going. One of my biggest pet peeves is for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, everything is pink and everybody has something pink that they're selling. And they're like, oh, proceeds go to breast cancer awareness. What is that? Who is that? And I'll ask them,
awareness. Awareness.
I'll ask them, I'm like, oh, what organization are you working with? Oh, breast cancer awareness. What is that? That's not an actual organization, people. Come on, figure it out. It's great to give, but you have to know who you're giving to and what they do.
And that's why you got to give to 305 Pink Pack. I'm gonna push it, damn it. I wanted to bring up something that we were talking about a little bit before we started, which is the importance in general. But I think even if we're gonna bring it back to like the whole "pero let me tell you" of it all, with Latinas and assessing their risk,
Yes.
we were talking a little earlier that it is, although there's a lower incidence in Hispanic women versus non-Hispanic white women of cancer, it is still the highest. Was it the highest mortality rate? It has lower. Oh my God, I wrote this down. I can't remember it. Lower survival rate. That's the word I'm looking
Correct.
for.
Yeah, Latina women tend to be diagnosed with more aggressive cancers and found at a later stage, which are then even more difficult to treat. And that comes down to not detecting it early enough, not knowing when we need to check, not knowing our family history. And we always hear early detection is key.
Right. Of course.
Early detection saves lives. But what does early detection mean? When are you supposed to detect?
What is early?
What is early? And early is different for everybody. And I think that's a big misconception. Mammograms don't start for everyone at 40. Consider it 40 is the latest you should start getting a mammogram.
Really? That's when they recommend that women start getting mammograms? I mean, as a general...
If you're at an average risk of developing breast cancer, your mammograms are recommended to start at 40. And it was 45 not too long ago.
Wow, even with an increase of just more breast cancer diagnoses across the board, it's still 40.
It's still 40. So you need to know if you're at a higher than average risk of developing breast cancer so that you can start that screening earlier on. Had I known that I was at a higher risk, I would have been starting my screenings at the age of 30. But I had no idea. And then being in the health field, I didn't get that memo. Nobody told me. And so the way that I ended up getting my mammogram at 40 was complete and utter chance. And Angelito sitting on my shoulder said, oye, something's going on. And then the doctor that I ended up seeing just out of the blue recommended the mammogram. And had he not, I wouldn't be here today, because at that point I was already stage 2 with multiple tumors and absolutely no symptoms.
So you were fine.
I was fine. So
is that common?
Yeah.
Like that most women are just going about their day and they're not I don't even know what a symptom would be other than because they tell you to, I mean, again, as a man,
Right.
I wouldn't know these things, but they tell you to check, for a lump and this and that. So if you don't have a lump,
And that's
that's
just
really
it.
the only symptom that you check for.
Oh, there's other symptoms. You can have changes in the way that your skin is, change in the shape, discharge. There's a bunch of other symptoms signs that you can have, but not everyone has a symptom, or once you have the symptom, it's more advanced. And so you want to get to it before you get to that point. And so you have to start with figuring out when you should start screening. Right. And the only way to do that is to really assess your risk. And so if you go to our Instagram at 305 Pink Pack, on our links, you'll have a link to assess your risk. And what that's going to do, it's a quick 2-minute quiz that it's going to ask you a couple of questions about your family history, about your lifestyle. And that's going to determine if currently your risk for developing breast cancer is average or higher than average. What's it going to ask you? It's going to ask you about your family history, but not just about breast cancer. It's going to ask you about breast, ovarian, prostate, colon, skin cancers, because all of these can be related. And we don't realize. So it's not just about having that conversation about breast cancer, but it's about any type of cancer. It's going to ask you about your lifestyle. When did you have your first baby? When did you have your first period? How many drinks do you have a week? All these things can impact. And so when I took my test after the fact, I found that I was at a higher than average risk. But had I known that, I could have taken the steps I needed to have that earlier detection than what I did. And so we're here, we really want to get that message out for people to understand what their risk is. And so then they can take that conversation to their doctor and say, hey, I got this result on this test. It shows that I'm at a higher than average risk. I need a mammogram. And if your doctor says, don't worry, you're too young, eso cosa viejo, you need to find another doctor.
Yep.
And then same with your self-exams. If you find something, you need to go right away and let them know. And if they dismiss it, you need another doctor. Especially with the younger women that we're seeing, it's taking them 6 months or a year to get a diagnosis because they get the runaround so much. They're not finding doctors that are listening to them or taking them seriously.
That's time lost.
It's time lost, exactly. So.
Wow.
So talk to your family and find out who had what.
And that's very important that you say talk to your family because as Latinos, and this isn't even something to be shameful of, right? This is the luck of the draw, as it were. It's the cancer lottery. Some people unfortunately draw that. So there's nothing to be gained by hiding it. We don't talk about the fact that abuela had. Why not? That's going to save lives.
Exactly.
So talk about your family history, people.
Yeah, and somebody the other day was asking me, what's a good way to approach that with your family? Look at la farándula. Look at a celebrity. Find a celebrity who's had it and be like, oye, did you hear about so-and-so que got cancer? Da-da-da. And then that'll just facilitate the conversation a little bit more because then you can be like, do we know anybody in our family? And then that'll get the wheels turning. But it's easier to point outward than to say, oye, who had it here? Start the conversation about somebody else, and that'll make it a little bit easier.
I'm lucky that in my family, we are very open about those types of things. Like my grandmother on my dad's side passed from colon cancer. So we have a history. So we all get tested. And two of my aunts are breast cancer survivors as well. So that's just one of those,
right?
Everybody knows this happened. Don't take it for granted.
Yeah. And have you had genetic testing done?
I have not. What is genetic testing?
So genetic testing will check for any mutations that you may have in your family for different types of cancers. It's not just breast cancer. Mm-hmm. In breast cancer, only about 15% of cases are hereditary or due to a mutation that we know of.
15? That's so low.
Yes, most have no family history. But with all the science and all the technology, we're finding new genes and new mutations every day. So you may not have any hereditary factor at this point that's been uncovered, but because you have so much in your history of colon and breast and all these different types, you may have a genetic mutation that you don't know of. So it's really great to have genetic testing done. Because you have a family history, you'd qualify. Usually most insurances will cover it. Right. And even if they don't, it's not thousands of dollars anymore. When I had mine done, it was about $3,000. It's $250 now, which is totally reasonable.
$250? That's nothing.
$250.
It's like 2 months at Starbucks.
Exactly. Exactly. And then that will tell you if you have a mutation, it'll give you a better idea of when to screen for even things like colon cancer and prostate cancer. So it's super important to have genetic testing done, and that's something else that you can talk to your doctor about. And if your doctor says, no te preocupes de eso, please.
No, I'm glad you told me that because I have to say I love my doctor. She actually is one of those doctors who you said, you're in and out. No. When I go to see her, I always try to schedule her or first thing in the morning. And one of the last times that I saw her, she's like, whenever I see that your name is the first one, she's like, I know it's going to be great. She's like, because at least for the first hour, and yeah, she takes like a good 45 minutes with me.
Fantastic.
Like we sit there, we talk, we catch up. Like, so
Good.
I have the vibe that if I told her that, I mean, she might tell me like, I don't think you need it, but not as a dismissive, you know what I mean? She may, and on the flip side, she's the one who's always just like, are you wearing sunscreen?
Yeah.
Are you doing that? So she's very much, you know, she's a Jewish mother. So she's very much that person. So
Yeah. No, it's really important. And with genetic testing, even if you had it done 10 years ago, it's a good idea to repeat it because now there's new genes that have been discovered since that time. And they may uncover a genetic component at this point that you didn't uncover back then. So with your family history, definitely a good idea.
interesting. Yeah, see, most people, mutations, some of the X-Men get superpowers. I would probably just get, earlobe cancer or something, like some type of weird ass thing. I want to bring it back. As of right now in 2025, they estimate that there's going to be about 316,000 new cases of invasive breast cancer diagnosed in women in the U.S. And we currently have over 4 million breast cancer survivors. Mm-hmm. What do you think is it that is attributing to that increase, but also across the board, right? Increase. Is it early detection, or is it just, because we've removed the stigma, of talking about it? Like even something, it's probably longer than I care to admit, but like the 1950s, yeah. Right? You couldn't even say breast out loud in public, much less, like cancer was, you smoked because it was healthy, right? So cancer wasn't even a thing. You couldn't talk about boobs. So like, we've made progress, but what do you think is it just a combination of things, or?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of different factors. One is that the technology has gotten much better at finding things earlier on. And so that has significantly improved. We're also understanding more as to how breast tissue works. So you may have heard about dense breast tissue. Yes. And there's a misconception that you can feel dense breasts. No, you can't feel dense breasts. That's only seen on a mammogram. And having dense breast tissue puts you at a higher risk of developing breast cancer as well. So, being able to use the test to determine that you have dense breasts, and then the test that you have to do differently than a mammogram to be able to see beyond that, having that technology has made a big difference in finding small changes early on. And then there's just a lot of lifestyle changes too, I think, that are impacting. We're seeing younger cases of cancers happening, and things are very different than what they were 20 years ago, good and bad. And so that's all gonna impact. But we are gonna have more and more survivors because the technology has changed so much. Some breast cancer patients don't even need chemo anymore because they have a test now that shows you if that tumor is gonna be responsive to chemo or not.
Wow.
So we know if it's going to be a toxic situation to give you this, or if it's going to be helpful. And so we have that information to make treatment that much better and easier, really, on the patients.
Yeah. No, well, damn. It's one of those things, again, where it's like, you know this, that things change and advances in science and all that. But I don't, listen, to me, when people say 20 years ago, I still think it's 1990. So, it's...
I still look at somebody whose date of birth is 1980 and think they're little. I'm like,
oh yeah, I'm like, oh, how cute. Like, you're like 30, right? Like, no, they're not.
I think 40.
Yeah. Equal. Speaking of changes, though, you at Pink Pack, starting now, I think in October, right? Mm-hmm. You mentioned you're also going to be opening up the program to men who are going through cancer as well.
Correct. So right now we work with women who are diagnosed with any type of cancer. And so when you look at our logo, 305 is because we're Miami, and 786 is not cool. Sorry, 786 Sports.
Listen,
my bad.
She didn't make the rules. She just abides by them. Okay.
Exactly. We're pink because we started because of breast cancer, and then we're a pack that has your back. So if you look at the colors all around our logo, those represent all the different types of cancers women can get. But it's pink because it started because of breast cancer.
I didn't realize that the other cancers had colors too.
Yeah.
I honestly, I only think of like breast cancer with pink, and then what is it? Prostate cancer is yellow.
I have no idea.
Maybe because of the Lance.
Maybe.
I was going to say the Lance Bass. Lance Armstrong. Speaking of the 90s.
There you go. Yes. So it's like ovarian is teal, colon is blue. Each one has its color. But yeah, so next year in January, we are super excited that we're going to be opening the program to men as well. So any adult with a cancer diagnosis over the age of 21 will be able to apply for our services.
Wow. So again, Pink Pack, despite the name, all cancers.
All cancers.
All cancer survivors or potential survivors are.
Yeah, and we say that they're in their survivorship. You know, you're at that point where you've been diagnosed and you are surviving day one of that diagnosis. You're getting through that day, so you're in your survivorship. And survivorship looks different for everyone.
Yeah. I like that. So you're in your survivorship.
Yeah.
I like that. That's beautiful. Before we start wrapping up, I do want to ask the question, you know, you mentioned earlier, like just listen to people when they're going through it. Don't tell them about, you know, the experience that your abuelos had and, you know, back in their country. What would you say is the most common thing that those going through their survivorship would want non-cancer, you know, those without having experienced cancer to kind of understand?
That it's really hard. Every day is hard. And even when you're done with treatment, and for those who get to ring that bell, it's hard. Your hair comes back. You do not feel whole for a very long time. And it's very difficult when people look at you, we're like, oh, you're fine. I'm not fine. You know, and even now I'm 7 years out and there's days that I'm not fine. And that's okay. That's part of it. That's part of your growth. And it's an experience that changes you like any other. But give us the grace to not be okay on certain days, you know? And when we want to go out, we don't want to always talk about this. We want to enjoy a cafecito and hear about your chisme, you know? So tell us about you and what's going on in your life, because we need a break from it sometimes.
That makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So 305 Pink Pack. What are the myriad of ways that our Pero Primos can get involved, other than showing up to clean Rosemary's bathroom?
You don't have to clean mine, but you can clean somebody else's.
Okay, well, can you imagine if that's like the only thing that comes out of this show is that people just start reaching out to us, being like, what cancer survivor can I clean their bathroom?
Call me. Call me. I have a list of people who can use their bathroom clean. Please call me. I can hook you up.
So what is aside from bathroom cleaning, what is the myriad of ways that people can volunteer or give to the organization?
You know, October is an important month for us because everybody is ready to give. You know, it's pink, it's exciting, a lot happens. And so if you have a business, if you have a school and you want someone to partner with locally who is impacting local patients in a way that they really need the help with, give us a call. You can let us know that you want to help us with a fundraiser, a dress down day, an employee match. It's all good. You know, everything that you donate stays here in Miami. So fundraisers are always helpful. If you want to volunteer, we can always use help with something, even if it's not directly with a patient or a member. If it's stuff around the office, if you're great at social media, hey, you know, give me a call. We can always use that kind of help. And more than anything, it's just spreading the word. Somebody you know needs our help. You know, so just direct them to our website, have them give us a call. We're always there.
Awesome. All right. So that is 305pinkpack.org.
Correct.
Okay. I was like, .com. And on social media, it's at 305pinkpack.
Yes.
And again, I've said 305pinkpack 1,000 times, guys. So there's absolutely zero reason for you to be like, what was your organization called again? Because no te haga. Okay. Like, I know you're hearing it. Rosemary, I want to say thank you, first of all, for coming on the show. Like I had mentioned, I've been wanting to have you on for a while, but also just thank you for turning your own experience into something that gives back. So many times people go through these experiences and you know what? I don't blame them for it. Mm-hmm. Some people just don't have it in them afterwards to do anything. And that's fine.
It's totally fine.
I get it.
If you want to walk away from this and never look back at it, that's totally fine. No one's expecting anything of you whatsoever.
But for you to say like, all right, now this is somewhat behind me, because I think you kind of made it like it's never really behind you. It's always a part of you. And now how do I give back? How do I make this experience, I'm going to say, mean something, right? Mm. It's because I think so many times people, when they go through these types of experiences, it's like, why me? You know, why does this happen? And that's a very valid question.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think in some weird way, I'm not trying to like minimize, but I think it was so you could do this.
You know, the universe has a strange way of putting you where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so this is where I needed to end up, por las buenas, por las malas. This is where I needed to be. And I would not want to be anywhere else because I love, love, love what I get to do every day. And it's an honor to serve the women that we serve and the families that we serve. This is my limeade, you know? This is my limonada.
We were talking about the lemonade limes. It will not die. That will not die ever. You know what? That's what I'll go and make limeade for anybody who's going. I don't know. Can you have lemons while you're going through chemo? I don't know. I don't know
if you'd want to. It's a little bit acidic.
Okay,
everything going on.
So I'll make it for when they ring the bell. How's that? All right. And we'll put some vodka in there.
When?
Hey, they've survived at that point. If they're ringing the bell, they deserve a celebratory drink. I'm thinking
something to celebrate. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. But Rosemary, again, thank you so much for swinging by. And I can't say enough. You know, on behalf of somebody who has people in his family who went through breast cancer, things. You know, organizations like yours go so far and they mean so much. And sometimes, you know, when you're in the thick of it, you probably just think like, you know, yeah, just keep going. But the impact you're making is fantastic. I guarantee it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.